watching Democratically Speaking. Mark Linde, your host. This is my second show as the chair of the Brockton Democratic City Committee, and I'm honored to have a guest. I have State Representative Michael Brady, who is a candidate for State Senate. We lost Tommy Kennedy a little over a month ago, and Mike Brady is a representative, and he's seeking a seat. Mike, welcome to Democratically Speaking.
Thank you for inviting me, Mark.
Glad you're here. Glad you're the news right now. You're the, as far as I know at the moment, I think the only Democrat in the race to succeed Tom Kennedy. Tell us a little bit about Mike Brady, okay, who you are, and then we'll talk about why you want to run for Senate, why you want to go from the House to the Senate.
Well, as you know, I've been born and raised in the district. I lived my whole life in the city of Brockton, and I've served in other capacities. I served on the school committee when I first got elected in 1995. I was a lot thinner than less gray hairs. But then I won a special election in the middle of winter, similar to this special election that's coming up at a little different time of year. This is in the middle of summer, where that was in the middle of winter. But I served on the school committee, then won an election to the city council. I served almost just over 13 years on the city council in Ward 2 in Brockton. And I was president at one point of the city council as well. And I served on many committees, ordinance and public safety there and traffic, et cetera. Then I got elected after Frank Powers passed away. He was our clerk of courts of Plymouth County. So our good friend Bobby Creedon, who was a state senator at the time, moved on to run for the clerk seat. And our great friend Tom Kennedy, who was a representative for 25 years, who did a phenomenal job as well, he moved on to the Senate, and I won an election for the State House of Representatives. So I served just over 7.5 years in the State House of Representatives. And I've been active on a lot of different committees. I was the vice chairman of public safety. I'm a big supporter of public safety. I was also on the Ways and Means Committee and State Administration. And now I currently serve as the vice chairman of bonding and capital expenditures. And a lot of people, it's unfortunate we lost our good friend Tom Kennedy. Nobody is ever going to fill his shoes, as we all know. If somebody, whoever, if it's myself or someone else who gets elected, if we do half the job that Tom Kennedy did, we'll be well served. He did more from his hospital bed at times than most people do on a daily basis out in the public. And so after he passed away, a lot of people had talked to me about running for the seat. And of course, I wanted to wait out of respect for the family and Tom Kennedy till after the wake and the funeral. But a lot of people that were involved with his campaign and people out in the public had asked me about running for the seat. So I've had tremendous support. And once Bill Gavin, our Secretary of State, set the dates for the primary, which is, I believe it's going to be October 6th, and the final election, November 3rd, I got out and started getting signatures across the district, not only in the city of Brockton, but the towns of Whitman, Hanson, Halifax, Easton, Hanover, Plimpton, part of East Bridgewater, and I've been out all over the place getting tremendous support, and I have submitted over enough signatures to get on the ballot for the coming election. So I've had tremendous support, and I can't do our, none of us can do our job alone without the support of our constituency and our supporters and volunteers, and I'm forever grateful for all my supporters and volunteers, not only the elected officials who have committed to supporting me in this election, and there's many of them out there, but the average person who works day in and day out, going to job every day, trying to support their family, and they're busy with their children with soccer practice, baseball practice, hockey, whatever. I've had tremendous support within the community. So I've been out there meeting with as many residents as possible. As I mentioned, this is a special election. It's very important that we keep the seat Democratic, and I want to keep the seat represented from somebody from the city of Brockton. So again, as I mentioned, October 6th is the primary. It's different from our primaries in the local city elections for mayor and city council. And then on November 3rd is the final election. That's the same day as the mayor's race and the city council race and school committee race. So very important for our community here. But I've been meeting with everybody and as many people as possible. And every day I'm overwhelmed in a positive way by the tremendous support I'm getting out there.
Now that election on November 3rd, you're going to get a separate ballot. Okay, you're not going to just have the city ballot. You're going to have a special election ballot.
That is very correct.
Let's wind back to the primary. First of all, before we go into the issues for the state senate, being the vice chair of bonding and capital expenditures, I know you're working closely with the other members of our legislative delegation to try to find a way to convince the governor to deal with the bond issue with both the Massasoit community college health sciences building and the downtown college campus. I know you had a meeting recently. You probably can't talk too much about it because you're trying to get them to change their mind, to make sure that they honor the commitment that they made to Brockton.
Right.
But I'm sure you're in the thick of it, Mike.
Well, our former governor, Governor Patrick, made a commitment to support two proposals. One is the downtown college collaboration, first of its kind in this area, but they've done it in other states with the Massasoit Community College, the University of Massachusetts, and Bridgewater State University, all working together for a college collaboration for a downtown. And as you and I know, when the high school got built in 1970, beautiful new high school up the west side of Brockton, you lost a lot of foot traffic downtown, as well as the malls getting built. And this happens in every community. The malls have more parking, more accessibility, but it definitely affected our downtown. And there's been many, many, many proposals to try to revitalize the downtown. But as you know, back in our college days, I remember at Northeast University, some of the most difficult neighborhoods of Boston between Wentworth and Northeastern, there was tough times going on, et cetera. So Northeastern made an expansion. Now you might have a coffee shop pop up. You might have a dry cleaners. It helps the small businesses as well, because these college kids got to go somewhere to eat and also somewhere to do their shopping and dry cleaning, et cetera. And this will be a win-win for our community. So we've been working on this for many, many years, back when I was even on the city council, and it finally came to fruition. The Patrick administration approved it. Everything looked wonderful. Now you have a new governor who comes on board, and I respect the new governor. We don't always agree with everything. He's got some great ideas in some avenues and some not so, but the thing is, he decided to put everything on hold with his bond expenditures, and he wants to review everything. Well, there's nothing wrong with that, but the problem is, we have been working on this for years. This is not a fly-by-night idea just pulled out of the sky. This has been approved by a lot of the administration in the past. DCAM was on board. All the state agencies were on board. And all the colleges working on a core curriculum that fits the needs of our community. A lot of people are out of work out there. We talked about pre-apprenticeship training programs, et cetera. It'll be a win-win for our community. Then the other proposal, which is so important as well, is the Allied Health Center over the east side of Brockton. The state, as well as the state purchasing the old Ganley building downtown, they own the old Christo's site where Christo's restaurant was. And they have proposed to put an Allied Health Center there. And the nursing program alone at Massasoit has about 200 plus students looking to get into the nursing program with grade point averages of 4.0, perfect scores. In allied health is where the jobs are. This is another job training and creation proposal for our area, which is so important. You know, our shoe industry is long gone. We can't live in the past. A lot of the shoes are made overseas or down south. So the college collaboration with the Allied Health Center will be so important for jobs for our community. And the medical industry, outside of the public industry, is the largest employer in the South Shore here, especially in the city of Brockton, the surrounding towns. So that is so important. So we've been continuing to meet with our mayor's office, the delegation, the whole state delegation, and the administration, Jay Ash as well, to try to get this back on track to be completed because it's so important. The other thing, because I serve on the Transportation Bond Committee as well, we funded some proposals for transportation needs in Brockton. Up on Quincy Street in Brockton, there's a very dangerous intersection. That's up in Ward 6, and we have a proposal to fix that. The intersection at Massasoit, which traffic is a nightmare coming in from Route 14 and 27 and Quincy Street and Crescent Street, all going to Massasoit Community College. They're supposed to do that intersection over, and also downtown, which, you know, two-way traffic has been talked about for years. It hasn't worked with having the one-way. You know, the people are just catching the lights, and it's like a racetrack heading northerly on Main Street. This has been a proposal that's well worked out with the Old Colony Planning Council to change some of the one-ways in downtown, some of the street configurations. They approved $5 million of a $10 million bond bill budget to do downtown over. Again, though, unless the governor releases the money, it's all on paper. It doesn't mean anything until the shovels are in the ground. So we're working with the administration on that. Very important issues, as well as our DA's office. That's another big thing for downtown. And our DA represents all of Plymouth County, and they need a new facility. There's not enough space where they are. You know, with the growing needs and the changes in law enforcement and everything else, you know, we have a big major drug addiction situation in our community, not just the city of Brockton, all over the Commonwealth. We've passed some legislation to address the issue, to get these young people help. but not to waver on the drug dealers, because we got to keep them off the street. They're preying on our young people out there. But the people who have addictions, like somebody who has a knee operation or even a toothache. There was a doctor down in Austinville, down the Cape, in a very affluent area. Somebody had a toothache. He's writing faulty prescriptions for OxyContin. And these young people get addicted, and then they can't afford that. They switch to heroin. It's a major epidemic we're facing. So last semester, we passed some legislation to address it, but it still was not enough. It's a start. And this is, I don't care if people are from Dover or Western in the state or from cities like New Bedford and Brockton. It's hitting everybody and affecting many, many families out there. So we've passed legislation to address that. But the legislation passed, the insurance companies keep pushing back because they don't want to have to spend too much money. So we're battling with them. So they only approved a certain amount of days in a rehab facility, which by far is not enough. And the biggest thing we face is you don't want recurrences of people with addiction problems falling right through the cracks. They're in a rehab facility, or they get arrested and they're in a jail for a little while, then they get back out on the streets. If they don't get the help, they're going to fall right back to these drug dealers preying on them, and then they're going to get back using the illegal substances. So I filed a bill in the State House to extend the time period that these young individuals, and adults as well, trying to get help, so they can get the help they need, so they get off these addiction issues, and then they won't fall prey to them down the road.
Now, Mike, the district is big. You've run in Brockton. You've been a city councilor. You've been a school committee member. You got to come up for air. Mike, you're a hard worker. I watched you out on the campaign trail many a time, and you don't leave any stone unturned. Tell us, first of all, you said that Senator Kennedy's shoes would be hard to fill, but you have a path that's very similar to Senator Kennedy. You were a city councilor. Mm-hmm. He was a city councilor.
Correct.
Ward 2. You're a state rep. He was a state rep. The only in talking about like Massasoit with the training, you worked over there. You did some training over there to help people get back into the workforce. Why are you the best person suited to be the next state senator for Brockton in the district?
Well, I couldn't have asked for a better mentor in Tom Kennedy, as he was like an older brother to me. He was a friend and mentor to myself. But he helped open doors for me in the State House. He paved the way for me when I first got in there as a young legislator getting in there. Of course, I wasn't as young as some of the other people out there because I've served in the city council for many years. But I think my experience helps tremendously. I've been out there. I've also served on the Democratic State Committee. My name's been on the ballot in all the towns in the city of Brockton that's in the district. But I also have done a lot of work in the district. I worked well with, Representative Ron Deneimer from Hanover on a public safety bill with the fire department out there that got passed through the House. It's in another committee right now, and hopefully that gets passed. I've done work. I've had relatives in the district. My mother and father at one point ran a flea market out in the district in Hanover. They also had an antique store in East Bridgewater. I've had friends and relatives in the district, but I served a lot of the district, working well with our colleagues in the State House and the Senate. We've done work in a lot of these communities outside of Brockton. So I've worked in the district. I know the district. I've been all over the place. Way back when I was a lot younger, I worked at a Superior Bakery in Brockton, and I used to go with my brother on the routes afterwards delivering bread to all these towns. And then afterwards, when I worked at Milan News, when I was still going back to college back in those days, I delivered out to the district. So I knew a lot of people out in these communities as well. Then later on, when I trained with Metropolitan Life, I went to school there. I worked for MetLife as an insurance agent. I started my own business in 1995, did the business of life insurance, health, annuities, etc. So I had a lot of clients in the district. So I know the district pretty well. And, there's a lot of candidates out there, potential candidates thinking of running for the seat, and I respect anybody who pulls papers to run for office. It's a democracy. Everybody has a chance to run for office. But I think I'm the best qualified candidate out there, based on the work I've already done in the district and the experience I've had. And you can't do it alone. I don't care no matter how wealthy you are or what type of operations you've done in the past. Everybody has to work together. And I've had a great relationship working with, of course, not only my Democratic friends, which I have a great relationship with, and I'm on the Democratic City Committee and the Plymouth County League and the State Committee, but even some of our Republican friends. And you have to work together in a collaboration to get it done. And I think my work experience and my relationships with all these individuals, I've got more elected officials in the district outside of Brockton, besides the city of Brockton, that have offered to endorse me and support me than anybody else I know, because I've already had relationships. You know, Troy Garrett in Halifax, to Rhonda Nyman in Hanover, as I mentioned, to former elected officials in the town of Whitman. My sister used to live in Whitman. Unfortunately, she passed away a couple of years ago. I had an aunt and uncle that my uncle was in the war, in World War II, like my father was. World War II veterans, they were members of the VFW. You know, and we've done a lot to support our veterans, but still not enough. I was a big supporter of the Welcome Home Bill and the Valor Act 1 and 2, which we passed in the State House, but we still have to do more for our veterans. Even the Affordable Care Act, it's a great piece of legislation for most parts, but there's still a couple flaws. That there's one part about our retirees that are going to get penalized for if they reach a certain plateau, they're going to have to pay more money out of their pocket. And that's a piece of legislation that is being done at the federal level, but I think it helps with my relationship with Congressman Steve Lynch. He's trying to get something done to take that little flaw in that piece of legislation to protect our retirees so we can fix that. There's about 7 other states that have corrected that. I think it's long time Massachusetts does, because we have to protect our retirees. You know, as you know, they're living on fixed incomes. Everybody thinks everybody's making the golden parachute when they retire. You know, maybe some industries they are, but a lot of people in public service, teachers, workers in the government agencies that might have been custodians or worked in the Parks and Recs department, they don't make a lot of money. And they're struggling. Some of our police officers and firefighters don't make a lot of money once they retire. They're just barely getting by to survive when they're retired. And we have to fix this flaw for our retirees. And I'm very fortunate that I got the support and the endorsement of the Mass Retirees and Public Employees. And they're working very hard with me on a lot of issues to protect our retirees. And I think my relationship, as I mentioned, with our federal delegation, of course, Steve Lynch is the closest one because he represents this district, but our 2 U.S. senators as well. So I think based on the experience I've had, my relationship I've built with people over the years, and as I mentioned, none of us can do it alone. We have to work together to get things done, because it's not one person. I don't care how many bills I file. If I don't get the support of my rest of my colleagues, whether it be the House or the Senate, nothing gets done. And I think based on the work ethic I've had in building up relationships, I'm the best qualified candidate to get the things done and to move this state forward.
Now, at the time of this taping, we are exactly 60 days away from the October 6th election. Okay, a lot of work has to be done in that time frame. You talked about your response. What do you plan to do for this campaign? What do you do? And let people know how they can get in touch with you, how they can help you. Tell them how they can call you. Don't fundraise on the show. You can't do that, but you can tell them about an event that you have or two.
Sure. Well,
but let people know how they can get involved with Brady.
I'm constantly meeting with people all across the district. It's called the 2nd Plymouth District, because the towns I mentioned that are in the district is precincts 1 and 2 in Easton, basically northeastern, all of the city of Brockton, the towns of Whitman, Hanson, Halifax, Hanover, 3 precincts in East Bridgewater and Plimpton. Now, if they want to get in touch with me, my cell phone number is 508-345-8632, and my website that's being developed as we speak is bradyworks.net. One word, bradyworks.net. I've got a company hired to put up the website, and they're going to be putting up other information about my campaign and where I've been. But most people, as you know, who know me, they can reach me by my cell phone. It's the easiest way to reach me. I'm always on the go, so I respond very rapidly and quickly, as quickly as possible to my constituency. And I try to help people out no matter where they're at. Sometimes they say I do too much, but I've got a soft heart, and I'll help anybody I can out. That's just my ethic. That's the way I've been brought up from my parents. I'm looking to move forward and set up some headquarters not only in Brockton but the other communities. I've got a lot of support from our working men and women of the Commonwealth. And my big ethic and the whole information on this campaign, bradyworks.net, is about supporting the working people. I've been you mentioned Massasoit. We had a great program at Massasoit, a grant program. It was a pre-apprenticeship training program helping women and minorities get jobs in the construction field. We were more successful than any other community college with this program, and we were under budget. Unfortunately, one of our former Republican governors cut the program. God knows why. We were under budget and had higher placements. And I've been working to get a program like that back in place. And I know Marty Walsh, the mayor of Boston, is doing something similar in the city of Boston. And you need to get proper training. 90% of the people we deal with want to work. There is always a cliche about somebody abusing the system. I don't care where they're from, taking advantage of the system, and they may be in the headlines once in a while in the newspapers and the TV. But most people want to work. Most people want to have pride in what they're doing. They want to have enough money to support their family, and they want to enjoy their retirement. And that's what my whole ethic work life is about, helping people so they live a comfortable life, not to make everybody a millionaire. We know these corporations, again, it's America, it's a capitalist society. There's nothing wrong with corporate America owning these companies, but they get more breaks than the little guy. Don't get me wrong. You know that as well as I do. We're always trying to ease people. We passed a little law recently about the tax-free holidays, they call it. And to give the break to, especially around when the families that got their children going back to school, you know, they may be able to buy some types of materials or paper goods or whatever is needed to get prepared to go back to school. So it's a little break given to the average family. But the corporations out there, they get more breaks than anybody. Even the small businesses don't get the breaks that the corporations get. So we're trying to help out the little guy. I've been a big supporter of small businesses, trying to work with them. In Brockton, we had the TIF plan, the tax increment financing plan. That's helped out small businesses grow, create jobs, but also the average consumer out there, trying to help them out. And I've had, as I mentioned, tremendous support. And I could never give back from my heart the support I'm getting out there from all of our communities, not only Brockton, but the surrounding towns. But as you know, I don't take anything for granted, and I'm out there going constantly 24/7, and I'm constantly getting the message out of what Mike Brady's about, but also what we plan to do moving in the future. Public safety is a big issue. As I mentioned, I served as a vice chairman of public safety. We're facing some serious things. Every time the summer comes around, things seem to heat up literally. I was a big supporter of the Shannon Grant. Every year it gets cut. I've worked with my fellow colleagues in the House and the Senate to get refunding implemented there. That's for gang prevention, helps keep kids off the streets, and it helps our local public safety personnel do their job more efficiently. And then the Safe and Supported Youth Initiative, another thing. We got to keep these kids off the street. We had summer school programs when we were kids. They got cut by the wayside. We've had park teachers in the parks keeping the young people busy. Now we need to do more. It's great that there's a Boys and Girls Club, and I served on the board over there. I was involved with the YMCA, but we've got to do more. So the Safe and Supported Youth Initiative is another funding mechanism to keep these young people busy. So we've got to continue to support that as well.
Mike, I know that you've always surrounded yourself with a lot of good people, and some of those good people are union workers.
Yes.
Okay, the firefighters, different unions. You've picked up endorsements in the past. Are they with you on this campaign?
I believe so. We're continuing to meet with every group out there, and I'm getting support from as many groups as possible. Again, I've always been for supporting the working men and women of the Commonwealth in protecting their rights. You know, again, we're not looking to have abuse out there. We've seen abuse. We've passed some legislation to cut the abuse and the other things that may go on, but you've got to protect people's rights to work. And safety things. We've passed safety initiatives in our hospitals, nurses as well. I've done a lot of work with the Mass Nurses Association. You know, when the old Brockton Hospital was on strike, I was out there marching with the nurses, and we passed some legislation about staffing levels. Our emergency rooms are overburdened, and there's not enough people in the healthcare industry working there, so we've passed legislation to have proper staffing levels in our medical fields, and also in our emergency care units, our intensive care units. So we had hearings in Boston on this, and it's very important. Public safety is a priority. This all goes hand in hand. Also, to make sure that we get, like we've worked to get the state police in here, and they've done a great job, but they have to continue that. And other initiatives we've done across the Commonwealth is trying to find, you know, open park space is another area we support. We also support protecting animals out there. And as you know, some people sometimes care more about the animals than their own human beings out there. But, you know, the abuse that goes on, there was a puppy dog law that we all supported. We have to protect, the pet owners out there, and the pets more so, that are abused out there. And that's another big issue. So, and I've done a lot of work with not only the MSPCA, because in Brockton, that's split up into 5 other groups like the Blue Dog Shelter, et cetera. But I've been very supportive of those agencies as well. There's a wide variety of work we are doing, but we continue to have to do. And again, funding is a big thing. We don't have enough money to spend all the time. You can't keep going back to the homeowners. I mean, we don't deal with local taxes, but we approve taxes at the state level.
Right.
And there's proposals out there to, you know, these high wage earners, I'm talking about corporate America, who can tend to get break after break after break, and the little guy does not. So we've got to do a better job with our whole tax structure to help out the family trying to get by, the small business that's trying to get by, and to give them the breaks. But, you know, we've got to find revenue some way. And this is another thing. If we continue to get good business growth in the community, that's good business, not the bad business, then we're going to have more revenue as well.
Now, things that are coming up, I'm not going to get too far ahead. This is democratically speaking.
Correct.
You're a Democrat, I'm a Democrat. Why is it important for this district to continue to be represented by a Democrat? We're not into the November election yet, but there is a Republican, a well-known state Republican. We're not going to say his name. They always said don't talk about the other person. But why is it important to continue Tom Kennedy's legacy, and for someone like a Mike Brady, who's an active Democrat as a state committee man and local city committee and just a committed Democrat, to stay in, and why should the Democrats represent the city of Brockton and the district?
Well, as we mentioned before, nobody is ever going to do a better job than Tom Kennedy did, and God rest his soul, but he was a great advocate on behalf of his community and his district. And I want to continue that legacy and continue the work he did. You have to be an advocate on behalf of your community. And that's the Democratic beliefs, you know. Again, supporting the average person out there, not getting swayed. You know, we see what's happening at the presidential area across this country with the battling that goes on with the Republicans. You know, as I mentioned, none of us can do it alone. We have to work together. This is a predominantly larger Democratic area than is a Republican area. Though I have friends who are Republicans, I have friends who are independent unenrolled as well. But all of us have to work together. The leadership in the House and the Senate is run by a Democratic Senate President and a Democratic House Speaker of the House, the chairman there. The governor's seat right now is held by a Republican. Might be a nice guy, but again, we had all these good works being done and proposed, and all of a sudden we have a new governor come in, and everything's been put on hold. And this just baffles me. We're trying to move the Commonwealth forward. And with the bonding issues that we talked about, you know, now interest rates are low. Now is the time to bond out money to get these proposals done with the college collaborations going on, any road works we need to get done, the DA's office. So now is the time to do it. The longer we wait, as you know, the cost goes up. And that's why with my relationship within the Democratic Party and all my colleagues that I have built up great friendships and relations with, I think I have a better chance of getting the state to continue to move forward.
Perfect. I'm going to give you 1 minute to give a closing statement. Talk directly to the voters, look into the TV lens, and tell them why Mike Brady for state senator.
Well, Mark, I want to thank you for your time today. I want to thank the listeners and the viewers out there in the city of Brockton, and if you have any friends beyond the city of Brockton, this is a very important election. There is a special election date going to be held, a primary October 6th, and a final election November 3rd. I'm asking for your support. I cannot do this job alone. I've had tremendous relationships and friendships built up over the years with not only the people from the city of Brockton, but all over this district. The towns besides the city of Brockton are the part of Northeastern Precinct 1 and 2, which is part of Northeastern. The towns of Whitman, Hanson, Halifax, 3 precincts in East Bridgewater, Plimpton, and the town of Hanover. I've been out there meeting with the residents. I've got a ton of support, but I cannot do it alone, and I feel I'm the best qualified candidate to do the job.
Mike, thank you. Thanks for being on. You're my
Thank you very
second
much.
guest, and we'll follow you throughout the campaign.
Great. Thank you again.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay.
You're watching Democratically Speaking. Mark Linde, your host. Stay tuned for more candidates that are running from the Democratic Party in the city of Brockton elections and in the state Senate race. Thank you for watching.